Recently, I noticed the trend in high school English courses, a love affair with homogenized formal essay writing. Teachers micromanage the entire process with templates and exemplars. Typically, the kids get a piece of current literature, possibly with a social justice theme, and they need to explain how the use of various literary devices creates a certain effect that serves the author's purpose. They're not allowed to incorporate historical context, make connections to their own experiences, or express their opinion. It's an exercise in conformity, and the product is a synthetic, sterile something that smells like ChatGPT. This doesn't make the kids smarter or better human beings. I'd like to do the opposite. I'm going to give you my personal reaction to characters and events in Brave New World and 1984. Brace yourselves for something subjective. Literature is supposed to be transformative. Huxley and Orwell wrote these novels to move the readers, to spur them to think, maybe even to see things in a different light. People learn a lot from other people's experiences. When I say my life is in balance, I enjoy stability. It doesn't mean that I just lean back and do nothing. I work, I deal with problems, I look at what happens around me in the world and I get worried. I still want to do something good and carry the torch. It's a dynamic balance and I have to maintain it with a conscious effort. It's important to get this right. Balance and stability in a society is just as important. But look at what happens to freedom and individuality in the world state or INCSOC. Theoretically, true ignorance is bliss. Ignorance on purpose, not dealing with reality to block out bad news, is not bliss, it's denial. Short-term denial can be an adaptive coping mechanism, but chronic denial is a form of delusion. It's maladaptive and causes damage. Hooray optimists downplay reality. Functional optimists have positive expectations, but they also do a conscious assessment of their efforts and the challenges involved. It's a mindset that can be an innate trait or a learned skill, or both. Luckily, I got the optimism genes from my family, but I'm also a poster child of Martin Seligman's learned optimism. I cultivate a balanced, realistic optimism because it makes sense to me. My position on pessimism? If optimism is linked to higher resilience, lower stress levels, and better health, how does pessimism make sense? People with a gloomy disposition and a brooding mindset should move heaven and earth to do something about it. We have one life. Lenina is the woman in Huxley's Brave New World. She's very attractive, but she is a thoroughly indoctrinated product of the world state. It's not her fault that she was brainwashed to fit into an upside-down system. Is she greedy or selfish? No. She is a woman who has a crush on a guy, an intriguing savage from a reserve who has different values. She wants him and she initiates sexual intimacy. To her, promiscuity is the norm. Having claimed her trophy, would she move on to other adventures? Is there any chance that an encounter with John would change her? And this different kind of love experience would help her to listen to him with an open mind. Remember, I'm an optimist. I think that in spite of all that brainwashing, there's enough humanity left in her. Love is transformative. She's not a monster. I believe there is hope for everybody. John the Savage is a tragic character whose downward spiral seems unstoppable. Can I relate to him? Yes and no. He falls in love with Lenina, but as a good idealist, he wants a soulmate and a wife. He wants to deserve Lenina. He drives himself and believes that he has to earn her love through sacrifice and suffering. Strange concept, huh? Been there, done it. I fell in love with a girl, and after a lot of agony, I was ready to tell her how I felt. I was waiting for her in front of her apartment building for 3.5 hours in freezing cold. Would I abort the mission because it was too cold? If I cannot endure a little cold, do I deserve the girl? In my mind, a self-imposed suffering showed my resolve, and it was needed for a favorable outcome. Of course, there was no cause and effect relationship in this. It's more like religious superstition. When the girl finally showed up, she didn't say, "Oh, you froze yourself for me." She thought that I was a pathetic loser and rejected me mercilessly. Learning time. Hoping to secure a good outcome through suffering didn't work for me, and it didn't work for John. John clearly differentiates love, capital L, and fun, as in fooling around. Easy sex to him is a turnoff, and he rejects Lenina violently when she offers herself. He loves her, he wants her, but not even this honest desire is enough for John to yield and compromise. His moral indignation reduces Lenina to nothing. Slapping her and calling her a whore is not justifiable. Instead of flipping out, John should have said, "Lenina, I think we need to talk." That's about it. Back then, I had my own Lenina encounter. The girl was cute, smart, down to earth, a go-getter, an absolute catch. She chose me. We had a beautiful year together, but it became increasingly obvious to me that as a soulmate, she wasn't a 100% good fit. She was very pleasant and practical, and life was good with her. But I was yearning for a deep and romantic connection that lasts for a lifetime. When I broke up with her, she couldn't comprehend my reasoning. My friends thought I was a stupid idiot to throw away a girl like her. But I'm glad that I didn't settle for a so-so compromise. And a year later, I found my happily ever after soulmate. I have faced extreme situations, and I have fallen on my face many times. I was hard-headed, like John, and there's always a price to pay for this. Sure, there were circumstances beyond my control, but mostly I can blame myself for failing to come up with appropriate responses to life's challenges. When I ended up on the Hungarian communist authorities' blacklist as an enemy of the people, I knew that my life, as I imagined it, was over. The magnitude of the disaster slowly sank in, and my brain feverishly looked for a way out. I ended up escaping and coming to Canada, and with relentless optimism, I dug myself out of the hole and rebalanced my life. There was another girl who I loved with great passion. I badly wanted that one. She was a soulmate material with depth and potential, but she wasn't ready for me. She needed time to process her childhood trauma. She pressed her clamshells tight and overdosed on romantic poetry. To her, I was a male Lenina who represented uncomplicated fun, and she was like John in a Shakespeare bubble. I ignored the red flags and persevered to win a fantastic prize. I bought the rings, and as I was ready to propose, she dumped me. My heart ripped in half. It was a huge loss. But I didn't rage against her, and I didn't want to commit suicide. Learning time again, and I moved on. Lenina was John's lifeline. Having sex with her arguably would not have destroyed him. Releasing tension is a good idea, and it opens the door to a more level-headed discussion. Making decisions under duress. Staying in a spasm that cannot be released. That's not good. John has a martyr mindset that's bound to escalate. He makes a huge scene in the hospital, throws out the kids' soma rations, and shouts to them not to take the poison that's meant to enslave them.
Get out! Get out!
The real Messiah did this, and what was his fate? People with a Messiah complex don't end up too well either. By the time John is at his lighthouse, he is too far gone mentally. Lenina greets him with open arms, but he attacks her with his whip and calls her a prostitute. Oh, the flesh, kill it, kill it. There's no way out of this madness. And just then, the crowd starts an orgy-porgy. He snaps, and suicide, sadly, makes sense to him. I can imagine better alternatives. Winston, from Orwell's 1984, is a functional optimist who wants balance in his life. It's of course incredibly difficult under the crippling circumstances. He knows that he will be caught, brutally tortured, destroyed as a person, and killed. That's a given. Living in fear is not for everybody, so he could fold, he could give up, he could say, let's get it over with. He doesn't march towards self-destruction. He explores, takes risks, hangs on to hope, and pursues happiness. He doesn't have much wiggle room, but he gets his cost and benefit analysis right and maintains his balance. His love affair with Julia is a remarkable feat.
Have you done this before?
Of course. Hundreds of times.
With party members?
Yes.
Inner party members?
Not with those bastards. Though there's plenty who would.
Look, I hate purity. I hate goodness. I don't want virtue to exist anywhere. I want everyone corrupt.
Well, I ought to suit you then. I'm corrupt to the core.
Do you like doing this? I don't mean just me.
I adore it.
Finally, a girl with guts. Julia's corruption is a yes to life, and her flings with party members are irrelevant. She loves Winston, Winston loves her, and they do something heartwarmingly human while it's possible. He gains weight, looks better, and his health problems disappear. Well done. Another functional optimist, Julia, is a better version of Lenina. Her promiscuity is practically defiance. an act of resistance. She conforms with the little things to create a cover that allows her to risk the big things. I don't think she's shallow or selfish. She bravely does whatever is possible in that regime, and she's a true lifeline to Winston. She knows the consequences of playing with fire. She knows that she will be eventually caught, but she is not deterred. She thinks that torture can be resisted. She says they can't get inside of you. Unfortunately, this is not how it works. They can, and they do. Some of the high-ranking SS officers were highly educated, some doctors, some with 2 diplomas. A freaky bunch. O'Brien is like them, and he's just as effective as Colonel Hans Landa, maybe even worse. He is so on top of his game that he literally reads Winston's mind. Landa can deceive people by behaving as an absolute gentleman. O'Brien engages Winston in friendly conversations and manages to confuse him with his spiel. The fact is that O'Brien tortures Winston into submission.
What do you want?
And he's very cynical about the purpose of it. Winston faces this monster with remarkable resilience. He still wants to know things. His delusion is that somehow he has a connection with O'Brien, that there's a personal touch in how he levels with him during the torture sessions. Well, it's just good old Stockholm Syndrome, a psychological survival mechanism. Even in the torture chamber, he wants to cope, he wants to live. The exact opposite of John. The last meeting between Winston and Julia shows that they still have a shred of humanity in them. They could choose not to talk to each other, but they do. The shared past and the shared experiences are still a bond between them. They confess that they betrayed each other. The same kind of horror happened to both of them in room 101. They know and admit that they've been destroyed as individuals. They are ashamed of this, and awkwardly they drift apart. The emotion of the moment, the human feeling that they show, is what makes the ending truly uplifting and positive. The final bullet, it's merely Winston's salvation. He doesn't have to love Big Brother any longer.